Hey everyone, happy Thursday. How are you all doing today? The topic for today's video is going to be quite a fascinating one. Now, a few people have asked me about this, what my thoughts were on this, and I didn't want to really talk about this or cover this sort of topic because it's not something that resonates with me. This is not something that is, important to me, but it is a major thing happening in the world that I think we need to be aware of, but I just don't see it actually playing out the way that it was intended to, despite the fact that they're trying to make it play out the way. I think people are certainly aware of it, and I think with all of the talk now, I've heard very recently, just over the past week, so much talk about this topic. I'm like, you know what? Guess I gotta make a video about this now. Okay, I guess I gotta make a video about this. So I've heard so many people talk about it, so let's talk about it. So I'm sure maybe you can infer by the title of this video what it may be about. I didn't specifically say the exact term, but it's called pretty much pressing the reset button on the world. The Great Reset is what it's called. Okay, how many of you have heard of that? How many of you are aware of that? How many of you are familiar with what that is? I'm pretty sure I started to hear about this for, I want to say many years ago. Okay, because you have to remember now, when you have an agenda this big, it needs to be planned out many years in advance. I'm pretty sure I heard about this a long time ago, but I don't think it really had a name back then. But when you see now, back then, when people used to talk about this sort of thing, they would be labeled as conspiracy theorists. Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. And then years go by, this thing comes to light, and it's like publicly admitted, oh, it's just for the greater good. It's just to help people. Okay, so what is the whole premise of this? Essentially, it is to reset the world's infrastructures, the financial system, the way we get food, the way we live our lives, every aspect of your life, to reset it and to change it, to change the way that the world is governed, to have a one world government, to produce much less toxins into the air that's causing this global warming. Sure, that may be fine. I don't think it's a bad thing to emit, cleaner emissions. I don't know necessarily for just the sake of global warming. I don't think that's necessarily going to help as much as it is just breathing in cleaner air. Eating less meats, I think, is another big part of it, which that's part of the whole climate change thing, which, again, I am in agreement with not eating too much meat, but that's just my personal opinion. I think people should be able to do whatever they want to do. But it goes beyond that. It's also the financial system, to have, a certain amount of governments lead the world, globalism, essentially, that there's just a handful of countries control the entire world, and one of those countries is going to be China. Where you don't actually own anything, where everything you have is rented and it's delivered to you via drone, so you don't have to go out to the store anymore, you don't have to see people. Nothing of the sort. Pretty much all of your physical contact is pretty much gone. It's just, you just live in your home. And just completely reshaping that. And it's essentially a form of transhumanism going into the future, where humans merge with machines. Now, what does all that sound a lot like? Does anyone know? It's called the New World Order, is what that is called, okay? And I don't know if you've heard it recently, but there's been a few people who have talked about this, including the Canadian Prime Minister. He said, due to this crisis going on in the world right now, this virus, now is the time to consider resetting our economy and global infrastructures to, live better. It's like, So here's the thing. All of your world leaders, your governors, your mayors, your presidents, your prime ministers, whoever it is that is in charge of you and who gives you orders, your dictators, okay? Whoever those people are, they're all in on it, every single one of them. They know what's going on. They have been briefed on what they must do in order to combat this destruction of our world that humans are causing. And to fix it, we have to reset everything. We have to rebalance the entire powers of the world and just change everything that is going on. Just reset it all. And never let a crisis go to waste. So they're using this crisis now, this viral crisis, to go about this. Now, this was already planned. This was a planned thing that was in the making for many, 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 many years, okay? And now we see it unfolding right before our eyes, okay? How many of you think things are going to go back to normal? Hopefully none of you have raised your hand, because as I've mentioned before, nothing will go back to normal. The way you knew life a year ago, you will not know that life ever again. That life is not coming for you. That life is not coming back, okay? Face the facts, it is not coming back. Going into the future, things are going to be different. Things are dramatically different, but let's just say we get back to a sense of normalcy. Do you really think it's going to be back to normal? Do you really think you're going to be able to get on a plane like perfectly fine without being tested and tracked and traced and facial recognition, and have the history of where you've been to, your vaccination history, your medical history? Don't you think that that's all going to be exposed? Of course it is. You're testing what if you tested positive or negative. This is the new world order, okay? That's what it's all about. Control, surveillance of you, so you lose all of your freedoms. Now, this is one of the biggest This is the biggest conspiracy of our lifetime. If you thought, September, 11 was a huge conspiracy, that's got nothing on this. This virus, everything that's going on in the world, this is the biggest conspiracy of our lifetime. Hands down, this is the biggest one, because it affects the globe, and it's all about resetting everything in our life and changing it in a way that is different. If you hear some of the talk from the politicians, the prime ministers, the presidents, all that sort of stuff, you hear these terms that are tossed around. You can hear it. I've heard, I've watched many, many videos about this, and they actually play, pretty much every single world leader and prime minister pretty much says something that is very similar. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? That's interesting. So that's what I'm saying. They're all in on it. They're all part of this agenda. Now, here's the critical moment in our life. So, as you know, humans are so intelligent, yet so, shall I just say stupid? Stupid, to be honest. They are so intelligent that they overestimate their own powers and abilities, that they completely destroy the world that they live in. Other animals don't do that. Animals don't destroy their entire species. Yet remember, most of how humans destroy their own kind is by human intervention. Is by them, let me plug in my phone. Is by them interfering in some way. There you go. Mostly it's them interfering in some way in the world, okay? That is what happens. They are doing man-made genetic modification. They are trying to combat via man-made means climate change, which is a man-made thing. all these man-made things that humans have caused and humans think they can fix by human intervention. Vaccines is another good one, you know. There people have become dependent on vaccines because, you know, we no longer have natural immunity to various viruses that we would normally get as a child, which 99% of us would probably be fine from. So we've created a world that is dependent on human intervention, medical intervention. We are no longer creatures of nature. Now, that's not to say that, well, you know, we're at that breaking point, we're at that critical moment where this transhumanist agenda is going to be, you know, coming into the light. Well, it actually already is in the light. You know, this is not a conspiracy anymore. It's already in the light. It's already happening, and this crisis is the perfect demonstration of what things could be like going forward, and tracking and tracing and transhumanism, you know, vaccines and all that sort of stuff. So that is the beginning of this. Now, what, as I said, humans are so intelligent they would destroy their own species via themselves. They just completely destroy it. Now, here's how things can end up changing. Okay? And again, this is, as I've said, this is the branching path that people are going down. Do you choose the path of freedom, or do you choose the path of control and fear? Any of you who's watching this right now who live in fear, if you live in fear, if you have any sort of fear whatsoever, if you don't know how to get rid of that fear, if you don't learn to let go of this fear that you have, whatever this fear is in the world, then unfortunately you're going to go down this path of fear where you will be controlled, you will be tracked, you will be forcefully vaccinated against your will, you will be forcefully, you know, have to quarantine and tested and all this sort of crazy stuff, okay? Now, that's not to say that you can't let go of that fear. The moment you can let go of that fear, learn to push through it, learn to stand up, learn to be strong, because that is what is going to get you by this critical moment, okay? This is the branching path in the world. When you live in fear, when you live controlled by the government, and the government is not here to protect you or save you in any way whatsoever. When you follow all their orders, when you follow them and you think that they're here to save you, and you live in fear, you're just terrified every single moment of every single day, then you have not even seen your worst nightmare come to reality yet. Because that is your branching path that you will go down because of what you believe. If, on the other hand, you are someone like myself who has no fear, I see these great, you know, reset things, and it's when you hear these things from it is the World Economic Forum. It's terrifying. It's like, oh my gosh, what are you trying to do here? And then you hear, you know, some of the world leaders talking about it, and you hear about the quarantine camps and the forced vaccinations and the mandatory testing, and you can't leave your house without a mask and all this sort of stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, look, honestly, it is terrifying. I felt it, but I learned, take a deep breath, let that fear go, and it's like, guess what? I believe that this is the critical moment that humans are becoming aware of this. Humans are going to stand up to this. Like, how many people became aware of that Mr. Bill? I want to leave a few words between, you know, his last name, Gates, because YouTube seems to sense it and go, did you just say something? How many people have become aware of him just this year? And now when I hear, you know, even some more mainstream news sources talking about this reset thing, and I hear just a bunch of other stuff, and even on the show that I watch every single Thursday, the High Wire with Del Bigtree, no longer on YouTube, I watch it on his website, or on Facebook. You can watch it on Facebook or Twitter as well. Today's episode is about that. So I was like, People are finally waking up to this, and that is what gives you power. When you live in fear of the unknown, what's going to happen here, and even when you see these things, like, oh my gosh, I have no power against this. Like, yes, you do. You think a few people sitting in a room making these rules and orders, thinking that they know what's best for you, have power? They have no power. You're the one who has the power. Millions, billions of people on the earth have power. All you got to do is just stand up, make your voice heard in any way that you can, and, truly go towards your ideal self, your ideal goals, and promote what you love. Not what you're fearful of, not what you hate. Promote what you love, the things that you love. It's that simple. When you look at it like that, and you promote the things that you love, and you promote happiness and positivity, and you promote this great awakening that's happening on this planet, this is what's the most amazing thing. People become aware of this, and people will shut this down. Okay? A few people who rule the world have no power unless you give them power, and they feed off of your fear. When you're fearful, that makes them more powerful, which means they can do whatever they want to you. That is what I say about this. So let me know your thoughts on this whole crazy thing. Honestly, it is deep down, yes, there is it is creepy. It is definitely something that has made me pretty intimidated and afraid, but it's like, okay, let me just let this go, because this is absurdity. This is human intervention. This is going to fail on epic proportions, especially when people right now are becoming aware of this and becoming awake to this. That's all that it takes. That's all that it takes. When people become aware and awake, just like this whole virus thing, being a total the biggest conspiracy, which is tied into this reset thing, the biggest conspiracy of our entire lifetime. If you don't see that, I don't know where you're living, but the biggest conspiracy of our lifetime. So that was it. You all take care. I'll catch you later. Have a great one. Bye. Bye.